The cruelty of the Ming emperors knew no bounds, and was especially directed toward the imperial concubines. Some Ming emperors had over 9,000 concubines, many of whom were kidnapped from their homes and forbidden to leave their gilded prison except when summoned to the emperor's bed. Since the barbaric practice of foot binding was widespread at the time, the crippled women could neither run away nor walk to the emperor's bedchamber. Instead, they had to be carried naked to the waiting man. The founder of the Ming Dynasty was the Hongwu Emperor, regarded as one of the most influential and significant rulers in Chinese history. Beginning his life as a penniless monk wandering through China, he rose to become one of the most powerful warlords in Asia. In 1368, he led the army that expelled the Mongol invaders, who had ruled China for a century. After establishing his dynasty, he chose the name Ming, the Mandarin word for brilliant. However, his ruthlessness extended beyond the battlefield. Behind closed doors, he kept concubines confined and subjected them to torture. His pride and jealousy drove him to control every aspect of their lives. In order to maintain control over his concubines, even after his death, the Hongwu Emperor initiated a gruesome tradition in which concubines were killed, forced to commit suicide, or buried alive alongside the deceased emperor. Both the Yongul and Hongji emperors, successors of the Hongwu Emperor, continued this brutal practice. Fortunately, the Zhengde Emperor abolished it in his will in 1464, sparing future concubines from the threat of death, though they still faced the danger of losing imperial favour. The Yongul Emperor is particularly known for establishing a second capital for China, Beijing, which remains its capital today. There, he built the Forbidden City, the imperial palace complex that stood from 1420 to 1912. His reign was marked by a mix of military, economic, and educational reforms, all under his authoritarian rule. However, his cruelty was well documented. In 1421, shortly after unveiling the Forbidden City on New Year's Day, rumours spread that one of his favourite concubines had committed suicide. Allegedly, she had engaged in an affair with a palace eunuch due to the emperor's impotence. Humiliated, the emperor set out to silence everyone who knew about the affair, as well as all those involved. He informed the rest of the palace that the concubine in question had been poisoned. Then, in an act of brutal retaliation, he rounded up 2,800 women from his harem and had them all executed by slicing, a gruesome method of death. Among the victims were girls as young as 12 years old. Although this massacre is not mentioned in the official historical records, a written account survives from another of his concubines, Lady Kui, who had been away from the palace at the time. Shortly after, Lady Kui and 15 of the emperor's remaining concubines were found hanging from white silk nooses in the halls of the Forbidden City on the day of Yongul's funeral. The 10th Ming ruler, Zhengde, who ascended in 1505, grew weary of palace life and became obsessed with living as an ordinary citizen. Disguised, he would often slip out at night to visit local brothels. However, this did not stop him from collecting so many concubines that it is said many starved to death due to a lack of food and space. Some historians argue that Zhengde's reckless and self-indulgent rule marked the beginning of the Ming dynasty's decline. His successor, Jiajing, was obsessed with finding an elixir for provide him with eternal life, and he believed the key ingredient in this elixir to be the menstrual blood of virgins. During his reign, the Jiajing emperor ordered that thousands of young girls be rounded up and brought to the Forbidden City to be harvested. To ensure their bodies remained pure, their diets were restricted to mulberries and dew. Many of them died from starvation due to this cruel regimen, but in 1542, a group of 16 concubines fought back in what became known as the Renan plot. The palace women acted on a night when the emperor was staying in the chambers of his favourite concubine consort Duan. After consort Duan withdrew with her attendants, the emperor was left alone, providing the women with the opportunity to strike. They held him down while one of the concubines attempted to strangle him with a ribbon from her hair. When the initial attempt failed, the women tried to strangle the emperor with a silk curtain cord. However, they used the wrong type of knot and were unable to tighten the noose to finish the job. In a moment of panic, one of the conspirators reported the assassination attempt to Empress Fang. Since the emperor remained unconscious until the following afternoon, the empress took matters into her own hands. Tragically, she ordered the palace women to be executed by slow slicing, also known as death by 1,000 cuts. Their families were also put to death. Amongst the cruelty, there was one Ming emperor who stood apart, Hongji, the 9th emperor and father of Zhengde. He limited his philandering and was never documented as being cruel to the members of his palace. Having witnessed the consequences of excess and abuse, Hongji rejected the lifestyle of multiple marriages and vast harems. His own father, Emperor Chenghua, had been obsessed with obscenity and neglected his duties, allowing eunuchs to amass enormous power. Hongji's mother, a consort named Lady Ji, was murdered by the childless favourite concubine, Lady Wan, out of jealousy over Chenghua's decision to name Hongji as his heir. Prior to this, Lady Wan had killed as many of the emperor's children as she could find, often murdering the mothers as well, in a desperate attempt to secure favour for her never-to-be-born son. This brutality left Chenghua deeply aware of the damage that could arise from having too many concubines with power and influence within the imperial household. As a result, he only had 2 empresses, one after the other, and there is no record suggesting he was as violent, torturous, or cruel as many of the other Ming emperors.